Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the September 14th Smackdown review. And I wish to say ahead of time that I'm going to leave two links in my description box. One is going to be for a video that was found on YouTube for Fox and Friends about what Michael Cole talked about, what happened. Now, I still stick with my original video for Monday Night Raw. I still believe that he really was pushed, and one of the reasons he didn't do any more commentary, and they stopped doing commentaries because Michael Cole wasn't going to do it. I'm still sticking to that. But what he said on Fox and Friends was not bad. I mean, he still has to do the right thing for his job and to make the show look good. He's got to do what's right for WWE, so I still commend him for what he did. So I'm going to leave the connection there, as well as the release from WWE.com of when they gave information of what happened. And that was almost all Michael Cole. And I wish to say how he talks about when he got a phone call around, I believe Thursday, in the afternoon by Jerry's girlfriend. I don't know her name. It wasn't mentioned. But Jerry's girlfriend called him and said someone wanted to talk to you. And when Jerry spoke to him, he said that was the most greatest phone call he had over the cell phone in his life. And I believe that. The way he talked in Fox and Friends really showed he really cared about Jerry. He was very loving to Jerry, and I have the complaint that the WWE seems to be a little cold when it comes to showing something like this happening. And I'll explain this in my review. So I'll leave the two connections in the description. The video from Fox and Friends and the connection to the article they left from WWE.com, which is decently detailed. So let's get into the Smackdown review. In the opening, you have ADR, David Otunga, and Ricardo Rodriguez going to the ring. And they're talking about basically the bro kick being banned, and they're happy about it. They wanted to show how dangerous it was, how destructive it can be. And then they brought in who I didn't expect they would bring in, Christian. Now, Christian's supposed to be a good guy now. And at this time, he's supposed to be out because he had to have surgery on his shoulder. And supposedly Alberto Del Rio was the one who caused him that damage in the first place. I could be wrong, though. But Christian did a decent job. He didn't act like a heel. He did talk about how he acted. And he did say that Alberto Del Rio is nothing but a damn snake, and he hopes that Sheamus is going to take him out in Night of Champions. But he also did say because of what happened with the bro kick, he has severe muscle damage, nerve damage, and now he had to have surgery. Now that was okay to tie that into the storyline that's currently being done now. And then when Sheamus came out and basically said to Alberto, "You're nothing, it doesn't make a difference." Oh, I almost forgot. Daniel Bryan also came out. And let me just say it like this. The bit they're doing with Daniel Bryan is good enough that it's not boring. And when he came out and said that the only reason that Sheamus won was because he was surprised and that he was given the bro kick in WrestleMania, that was the only reason he lost. So then Sheamus came out and said, "I don't care if it's you, Daniel Bryan, or you, Alberto Del Rio, I can beat you either way, with or without the bro kick. It was all me. Doesn't matter." So later in the night, you have the match with Sheamus and Daniel Bryan, a repeat of WrestleMania. And almost forgot, when David Otunga confronted Sheamus, Sheamus took off his neck brace and basically gave him a nice whack. In other words, grabbed his neck and pulled him towards the ring ropes and slingshot him back. David basically sold it pretty well, and I wish to say I'm very glad that he's growing his mustache and beard back. He didn't look very good with it. He looked like I'm not bashing anybody, but he looked like a damn doofus. He does. Some people can really do well with a mustache and beard. Some people can really do very well without a mustache and beard. He looks better with one. He just looks weird without it. Now, first match of the night. It's Sin Cara versus The Miz. Now, I didn't understand the reason why they put Sin Cara versus The Miz, since you got Cody that both Ray and Sin Cara going after, because Cody's going after them. I didn't get it. When the match was over, And Sin Cara won this. And it would have been better to let Miz win. But it makes sense afterward, because when they had the backstage with Matt Striker and the Miz, and Matt Striker basically asking Miz, so how do you feel about what happened when you had to face Ray and you got beat? And how do you feel about not knowing who your opponent is and Night of Champions? Miz feels like he was basically screwed, and basically he is being screwed. This match that he has to do a fatal four-way with Sin Cara, Cody Rhodes, and Rey Mysterio it's a travesty of justice, because simply I can understand Rey Mysterio because he did pin him. I can understand Cody Rhodes because he gave him a crossroads. But having Sin Cara involved in this, are you serious? It's too soon. See it like this, ladies and gentlemen. It's obvious they want to put Rey and Sin Cara in a program. They don't have to be heel and face. It can be heel and heel. I agree with the Off the Rope show, and the Off the Rope show hasn't done, at least at this time, have not done their September 14th review yet of Smackdown. The September 7th was up, and I understand what the Slug Daddy's doing. He's waiting till he gets enough comments, and I commend him for doing this. It makes the show a lot more interesting. It does. So his comment at that time, which is recent, maybe a couple of days, and that was last week, saying they want to put Sin Cara and you have Rey Mysterio, and they want to put them in a program together. And they don't have to be heel and face. It can be face and face. Like I said before in one of my own videos, Rey needs to work with Sin Cara. Sin Cara did not deliver once Triple H brought him in. Been very sloppy. He's already been warned once in the wellness program. He has one strike against him so far. And essentially speaking, he has not delivered. But I believe this is a little too early. But I do understand why they're doing it, because let's put it to you like this. It sounds good on paper to have Rey and Sin Cara, and everyone thought last year Sin Cara and Sin Cara was going to be good. I think they're doing this as a test bed, for the simple fact that Sin Cara and Sin Cara, which was Sin Cara and Hunico, they thought it was going to be a great match, and it came out terrible. So putting Sin Cara in this program right now, just to see how Rey and Sin Cara are going to interact with each other, I can understand it's a good idea to do. But I really believe it's a little too soon, because they only matched up in tag teams twice, and Sin Cara's interjected in Rey's matches maybe once. And really, I think maybe a month or two from now they could have done this. I think the next one is, what is it? Not TLC. I think it's Hell in a Cell, the next one. I could be wrong about it. Like I said, I've been very busy. It's kind of hard to keep track of this stuff. And I know when you're doing this thing, you got to know what you're saying. And I'm getting there. This is only my 23rd or 27th video. No, 27th or 26th video. So I'm still getting there. But by at least the next two pay-per-views, this would have been really a smart move to make, to have the test bed. But it feels to me it's a little too soon. But at least it was a decent segment. I enjoyed the interaction between Cody and The Miz. Forgetting about Rey and Sin Cara, and I like to say now that when they break Sin Cara from Rey, he needs a mouthpiece. Having him point and not talk is not enough. He needs a mouthpiece. He needs a manager, someone to talk for him. Maybe Vicky. I know that sounds like, what, really? She's already doing Dolph. I know, but it would make some sense. Anyway, the next part is a backstage with Kane and Daniel Bryan and their doctor. Okay, this was funny. You have Kane first, and they did a little video package of how Kane and Daniel Bryan together, and they put a video in the video package when Kane and Daniel Bryan hugged, sweet little hearts and sweet little song together. Seriously? That was going a little too far. I did not like that. They should have left the segment the way it was originally that was aired. Instead of making it sweet and loving like honey blossoms and flowers. Well, come on. This is Kane, the devil's favorite demon. Seriously? Come on. Even if you're trying to make him switch over from bad to good, don't do that. It just makes his character look terrible. But I can say this backstage segment was funny, because when Daniel Bryan came in while Kane was working with the as they call it, a stress ball. It's usually red or blue, counting on what's comforting. I've heard people using it. I never use it myself. And then when they started arguing back and forth about who wants to be tag team champion, and their doctor's telling them, you know what, we are going to work with the balls. Squish the balls to make you feel good. The more you squish it and squeeze it, the more release of stress. And it's kind of funny seeing them like I admit that was funny. And at the end, when Kane looked at Daniel Bryan and Daniel Bryan looked at Kane, and Kane looked at his ball and looked back at him and said, my ball is bigger than yours. That was just a basic classic old school type of my dick is bigger than yours, dude. You ain't nothing. And Daniel Bryan acting totally goofy saying, really? That was just funny. Now the next thing was, and I didn't understand this match, Kofi versus King. Now I'm not saying I don't understand why they're doing this. Putting singles together just before the go-home show, in some cases are okay. This case, it's been seen before. So basically Kofi gets squashed by Kane, but then when you see the doctor come out and Kane looks at him and then heads back to the ring, I thought, he's going to probably choke slam him. He's going to slam him through the ring. But then, as he's choking him, he hugs him. Dude, this is the devil's favorite demon. The angle that was last year, that was done with The Undertaker. At least, no, not last year, the year before last. With The Undertaker, where he looks like he was losing his touch. And then you got Kane having more compared to The Undertaker, being that evil. And you have him hugging Kofi Kingston in the ring. I don't know where to go with this. I have no idea, and it makes no sense. But you never know how they're going to twist this with Daniel Bryan and Kane. If they win the belts, you don't know what's going to happen. And you don't know if AJ is going to be interjected in it. And I don't know, but I'm going to try and keep an open mind. You never know. They may have a good swerve with this somehow. But it probably may be flat. But let's leave it at that. Next segment is another backstage with Striker again with Randy Orton. Now, we should say, I've seen Randy Orton's promos. He's not a good talker. He's not usually smooth. A lot of times when he tries to act kind of like William Shatner, like, make sure the lithium chamber is working. You know how Captain Kirk used to talk? He used to break up his words. Randy Orton sometimes has that kind of talk. This time, it was actually quite smooth. I'm not saying he did a great job at it, but the way he was going through his own promo segment was actually much smoother than normal. And I commend him on that. It was quite smooth, and he was talking about going up against Tensai, saying he wants like a tuner match before he goes up against Dolph. And Dolph is nothing but basically a sucker. So I can say he did a decent job with it. And when it came to Tensai versus Randy Orton, that was the next match, it was, it wasn't very long, maybe about 8 minutes long. Thank goodness for that. It was slow. Now, understand, you got a very big guy in Tensai who's not a fast mover, and you got Randy Orton that he moves quickly, but let's be honest. Randy Orton only does matches good when he wants to do them good. And that's when he wins. Now, he did win, but it felt a little slow. At least that's how I felt. He won by RKO. The match wasn't bad. It was technically okay. It was basically okay. And then when Vicky came out to distract Randy Orton, I was hoping that Dolph might get actually over on him. But then Randy has to be Randy and basically has to have the last word. So he knew, in his own words, he said, Vicky, you're the one who's out here and your man's not here. That must mean there's some type of trick. And jumps around and then catches Dolph about to enter the ring. That must, he had to be cued on that one. Now I could say the cue wasn't too bad, but honestly, he didn't have to have this. He just won the Tensai. He could have lost this. He could have, in other words, Dolph could have ran in there and hit him and attacked him, and at least give Dolph a little more of a raise as a heel. Because to make some matches work, you need the bad guy be over on the good guy more. Having a good guy who sometimes tries to act like a tweener, because sometimes he tries to act in between Randy Orton. Sometimes. Usually you have him only as a heel, only as a face, and sometimes he acts in between. And he's not acting between now. He doesn't have the attitude of an Austin. Doesn't. So you can't really, he doesn't do it well. So it was over with that. Now, this was the interesting part for me. Antonio Cesaro with Oksana. Oh, gorgeous woman. Ugh. And then he has his own promo segment, which is a little choppy. I think he needs a little more work on his segment. I can understand a little bit about the 5 different languages, saying he's outraged because how come he has to wait until the Battle Royal to know who he's up against. And they haven't, I checked the website for WWE.com, they have not said who's going to be in the Battle Royal. They might not even say it. But we now know, too, you have Tyson Kidd who comes out and says, you know what, I'm going to tell you something in Canadian. And I'm going to tell you that you're going to lose your United States champion, eh? And then Antonio knocks him out and then throws him out of the ring. Okay, not bad. But then Brodus Clay comes down. Now, I was surprised to see this, that he did not have the Funkadactyls with him, because usually he does. And I have to admit, I miss the girls. I miss my Naomi. Not saying I love my Cameron, but I miss my Naomi. And I'm hoping with the Battle Royal they'll show it, which they probably won't, because they're going to probably all be in the Battle Royal at pre-show. But I'm just leaving it that he comes to the ring, faces down Antonio, and Antonio basically says, wait until Night of Champions. And as they fight, Antonio gets basically a headbutt in the chest. After it was over, with the splat, you have basically Clay and Tyson Kidd dancing in the ring. Seriously, that didn't need to be done. It didn't need to have the dance at the end. Doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's good for the kids, but I don't think it was that important to have. But it doesn't mean that won't help in the pre-show. Now you don't know who's going to win. Could they actually be trying to pull a Daniel Bryan with Tyson Kidd and throw the United States champion on him? Could they be throwing a Daniel Bryan with Brodus Clay? We don't know. Now this was good, the next part. We had Wade Barrett coming out. It wasn't backstage, it was outside with the fans. And basically, when he came back last week, and he basically knocked out Yoshi. Wasn't bad. He did a good job with Yoshi. And I was to say that how they packaged him was beautiful. They did a great job with him. But I think after the match last week, his promo, his speech afterward wasn't impactful enough. This time they did a better job, because he basically said he wants to explain what it means to be open for business. And he says simply, I'm going to make sure people understand what I mean by being open for business. Next week, I'm going to give one person the opportunity to get a sample of the product. And then he leaves. Good. They did not make him do another match. Nothing about him being a Night of Champions. Fine. They need to rebuild him. Going to Night of Champions where he made job would not make me happy. He's way better than that. So having it done next week after Night of Champions is a good thing. Beth and Caitlyn. How can I say this? Short match. Thank goodness for that. Beth has become irrelevant. Caitlyn, I mean, let's be honest, even though Caitlyn has some level of skill, they have not built this up at all. It is completely flat. So Night of Champions, I don't expect it to be really great. I expect it's going to be a decent match. But honestly, I don't see anything there. It's just empty. So I'm going to just leave it at that. Now, what does get me upset, and I say this clearly, since I said in the beginning of this video about what happened with Michael Cole and what he did for WWE.com, because I'm sure he's the one who wrote that article, and also when he sent Fox and Friends. They showed only one short segment of Jerry. Only one. Very short. The Twitter's handle Jerry get well, or get well Jerry. That's it. That's all they really did. And Michael Cole and Josh Matthews didn't say anything else about Jerry or giving updates. Now, I'm not sure that could be because Jerry might have requested not any more talking about him. It could also be that Vince McMahon does not want the show to be all about Jerry. I find that not fair because I really believe at least it should be mentioned a little bit more on any one of the shows. NXT, Superstars, and including Smackdown. Smackdown is important. Jerry used to commentate on Smackdown at one point. So I really believe he should have been mentioned more prominently, at least saying things are still going well. You can check up on WWE.com on more about what's going on with Jerry. They could have iterated that, but they didn't. Now, the next to the last is Booker T with Eve talking about his decision about banning the Brogue Kick. I thought of doing this earlier, but I'm saying this now because of the last match. But I like this segment, especially that they put Eve back in a dress with those glasses and showing how smart she's supposed to be. That was good. Keep Eve away from the ring so she does not become irrelevant. And the segment with Eve and Booker T was good. When Teddy comes out and he also gives in his 2 bits saying, you did a good job from one GM to another. And the thing that confused me was, seriously? Trying to say Teddy Long can't fist pump his man? Can't do that? Come on. What? I'm thinking two things. One, there's going to be eventually a segment where either Teddy Long and Eve is going to be chosen between Booker T to stay. That's my feeling about this, the way things are going. It's either Booker T is going to have to choose one of them to keep and the other one to get rid of, or because of what's about to happen, I'm thinking that Eve may get a shot at being GM of Smackdown. I know that sounds weird, but I'm not saying this is going to happen now. It could be months from now because of what's going on. I don't know. My guess is there's going to be a choice between Teddy and Eve to stay, because I think Booker T is going to say, I just found out I got to have a cutback in my department. One of you's got to go, and I have this feeling that he's going to have to make a choice between them. That's the kind of feeling I'm getting. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And the last match is Bryan versus Sheamus. It's basically similar matches they've done before. The only difference is there's no Brogue Kick. It's basically a Texas Cloverleaf, which Bryan taps out to. Could not try and get out of it. Sheamus wins, and now we move on to Night of Champions. What does this mean? The go-home show was, let's just say it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good. It was somewhat on the line, but there were some things that brought it down, like the Jerry segment, not really giving more information or prominent time to, even though it was a few seconds. It was just like an afterthought only to me. The backstage with Cody and Miz was very good. The backstage with Kane, Daniel Bryan, and the Doctor was funny. The Kofi and Kane match with the hug at the end was weird. Antonio Mazzaro and seeing Tyson Kidd and Brodus Clay wasn't bad at all. I say this was a C show. No more, no less. And I'm going to leave it at that. It was basically a C show. So if you like this, subscribe and comment to the Zane View. I'm hoping maybe before Night of Champions I will be able to get out a pre-show prediction, and maybe I might be able to get the Impact that was done this Thursday out as well. I have a lot to do, so I'm hoping to do, if I can't do them both, I'm going to do one of them. So you have a good night, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.